I want to get at the issue of the one and the many and how we, I guess, think about that question of is all of reality a kind of unified oneness, or is there just many? Is there parts without a whole? Are relations diseases of the mind and something that we project? And is all reality basically unified and our mind cuts up reality? Or is all reality disconnected and our mind brings it together? If you ask the Big Bang, is it really the Big Bang? Was there just one? Is it one event or is it many events? Now, if you're going to say it's really just one event, see, it's kind of, Alan Watts has a funny line where he cuts at it a little bit this way. He says to say that one thing causes another thing is just a clumsy way of saying that they're both parts of the same event. Well, I think that that's partly true. Again, it's an insightful comment. We don't want to deny that. But aren't there just as many connections as there are separations? Isn't it the fact that the problem or the paradox is that we're both one and many? There's a both many and oneness to existence. And you can try to flee from it and say that only it's all just many. There really is no one behind it all. Or you could just say it's all just one. But both of those are a lie, I think. They're fleeing from the dance and the ambiguity of the dance. It's sort of like the lines of figure and background are necessarily ambiguous, and they need to ambiguously slide around because one thing couldn't exist. I mean, if there would be just one thing, where would the one thing be such to register that thing? Right? If you only had one thing, you couldn't see it, you couldn't register it. The only things that you can see, I mean, look around right now, you can see this piece of paper, but only by what's not it. That is, there's always figure background relations. When you get to the edge of the universe, if the universe is infinitely expanding, when you get to the edge into that which it's expanding, well, isn't that just more universe? I mean, how will you it seems like if you pull back and do a different category, you end up stuck with it. Now, you might say, well, there's nothing. See, that's what people say. Well, they'll say, well, there's actually nothing, and then there's something. What does that mean? Because if you say that there's nothing, well, then what's the background for the nothing? Whenever you have a figure background relation, you always have to have a background for the background, and there always has to be a figure and a background. You can't have a figure without a background, and you can't have a background without itself being backgrounded. Right? I mean, you sort of do this with your vision in the sense of your periphery of view and your own ability to recognize blind spots becomes part of the way that you start to see the frame within the frame. But for the most part, people really struggle, I think, with the idea that reality is both one and many. I think they flee from it in an attempt to resolve it as simply all one, or it's just diverse parts. How could one think the truth that it is both of those simultaneously? I thought I was just going to be able to end the video there, but I just couldn't. And part of it was the problem that it can't be that it's both one and many. That whole way of talking seems to make sense, but you know what it does? It makes it seem as if reality is going to need to conform to what we think about it. I think another way to say it is the universe, the cosmos, the ultimate reality, all that is, whatever we mean by those expressions, they can't be either one or many. One is a concept, many is a concept. Reality is not reality. The word that we have, reality, is a small animal chattering noises trying to grasp what is so beyond comprehension. I think we've been so good at creating a kind of backdrop and horizon of intelligibility, a sort of steady net of ideas that we stand upon, and we imagine that we have something other than a map and or a dream about what's really going on. You know, the sort of Eastern orientation that would say neti neti, don't go there, don't go there, right? You can't think about it. That ultimate reality has neither one nor many. The problem is that there's a fleeing toward, when you begin with the problem of ultimate reality and then think you're going to think it out as an answer, you've already made the critical mistake that all of reality is not a thought. But thought thinks that it will think about reality and grasp it in reality's terms rather than just in thought's terms. But that's the problem. Thought can only deal in itself, and it thinks it traffics in other than what it is. Right? I mean, there is a sense that we have where we're looking at the world, where we say, yes, this is one, or yes, this is many. Or we'll say, oh yes, it is both. You know, you can do these different kinds of gymnastics, but I think a very different way of understanding it is to say that it couldn't be either. One is a concept, many is a concept, and the task is to be able to tease your mind out of its very limits, to see the limits of thought, and to see that there is much truth around you that cannot be spoken. I think if that's what people mean by ultimate unity, so you can't even use the word unity, you just want to say it's beyond what words could say. There's a great line by Kenneth Burke where he says, the word tree in English rhymes with like 200 other words, you know, everything from be, see, ni, but the actual thing to which that word refers doesn't rhyme with anything. Okay, thanks.